Niko House at this point is put in a position where he has to provide some kind of evidence to justify his claims, and instead he just backs up and goes, oh, well, you can't trust the CIA. That's not evidence for shit. That's nothing. Also, it's really funny, again, that as a contributor to Russia Today, that he would say this, when the Russian government is one of the most blatant propaganda farms.
Niko House, thank you so much for coming on today. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to the stream, we jump in from there.
Might want to give a quick background on Niko House to those who don't know in chat. Oh, he's crazy. There we go.
Yeah, so I am a political analyst and commentator and activist and organizer and documentarian, amongst other things.
Okay.
I've worked for
Thanks, Vaush. No problem.
Bernie Sanders, Jill Stein, Tulsi Gabbard, as well as a few congressional candidates and some people who are currently in Congress, unfortunately.
Okay.
I'm mostly known as for debating, honestly. Lately, it's been mostly that.
Yeah.
And starting the DNC fraud lawsuit, which went to the Supreme Court and got dismissed by Clarence Thomas, unfortunately.
Okay, yeah, this is
but yeah, I'm also a contributor for RT News. RT
Okay.
National.
You know, when I was looking you up, I saw that. Yeah. I don't know if you know who I am, but I mean, most people watching probably do, considering this is my channel. At least I would hope they know who I am. But yeah, I really appreciate, again, you coming on. My name's Hunter Avallone. I'm a social democrat, if you will. So I know we're going to have a little bit of disagreements, but I wanted to really talk to you about...
Okay, chat, I'm asking you guys because I actually don't remember. So Niko House was the person who came on, and then I made a joke about how his girlfriend was in another school because he was saying something about how he had info but he wouldn't provide it. And oh, he was the one who couldn't define fascism. He said that Biden was a civility fascist, and then I asked him to defend fascism, and he wouldn't do it. Like, no matter how much I asked him to, he would not define fascism, no matter what. He refused to. And then he said I masturbate a lot, which I mean, I guess broken clock and all that, but I don't know what that had to do really with the debate. Oh, define, not defend. Yeah, define. I asked him to define fascism, not defend.
about what you said at the Better Discourse panel, particularly about like the CIA and unlimited funding to Google and Facebook, and how that sort of relates to like the platform versus publisher discussion as well. I mean, I heavily disagreed with what you said initially about the CIA giving unlimited funding to Google and Facebook, but do you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah.
Is the volume good?
There are different avenues that are taken to provide the unlimited funding. In the scope of the conversation that we had on the panel, I definitely had to oversimplify it, but I'll give an example. For Earth used to actually be called Keyhole. Keyhole, CIA actually owned, I want to say the majority of Keyhole, and it's specifically created for mapping and things like that. And then even though the CIA owned Keyhole, they allowed Google to buy them in 2004. They owned Keyhole in 2003. They allowed Google to buy them in 2004. Now, mind you, this is still within the context of Google having a plethora of government contracts.
So I'm going to take issue with what you've said already, because I already think that you're oversimplifying and overstating some things. So when you say they have a plethora of...
I'm lost. I don't know the hell we're talking about. Hunter, bring me in. Rein me in with your knowledge, okay? I think I'm guessing the reason this came up is because Niko House's buddy, Jack Posobiec, the Nazi, is one of those, I worked in the intelligence agency, so I can tell you with total confidence that they're totally infiltrating everything, and by infiltrating everything, I mean actually they're the reason why my race realism YouTube videos are getting demonetized on YouTube. That's like the vibes, right? You know those people who like they start out with like a good take on the security state, and then it just goes hog wild real quick. Something like that, right? Okay, we'll see.
Of government contracts. That's not true. So if we're talking about Google specifically, there was one grant given in 1995.
No, I already know what you're referring to. You're talking about to the two college students. What? Page and
Yeah, Larry Page, Sergey
no,
Brin.
that's not the only.
Brin.
That's not the only thing that they've gotten. I mean,
They
I
had
feel
a
like
few other grants, which is, I mean, completely
They've
acceptable
had-
and within the
they've
law, but
had-
they didn't have a plethora. They had really just one grant in 1995.
Let me give
And then
you-
when
let
you,
me give
well,
you
hold on,
the-
wait, I needed to respond to the second thing you said
Go
too,
ahead, go
because
ahead.
when you brought up the Google Earth thing also,
This will not take
nothing
long.
is weird about this. The CIA developed some technology that they used for their own reasons, and then they sold it away to Google, and Google went on to further
Not-
develop the,
not
no. Google went on
that-
to, I am literally reading it right here
Reading from where?
from a 2004 article when the news first broke. Google has acquired 3D mapping company Keyhole for an undisclosed sum and announced that it's cutting the price of the consumer edition. So there's no, why is this weird? This is just
You
Google.
don't find it weird that the CIA, which by the way, I think at least interviewed. They don't have to say who they invested in, but they at least interviewed thousands thousands of startups whenever Silicon Valley first became a thing.
I'm aware of
in
this,
the
but
late-
this.
Hunter defending the CIA. Lol. Shoo. No, Hunter's not defending the CIA. Niko House is a conspiracy theorist. Who, well, I'll admit I don't know the groundworks of this conspiracy yet. I have to. I'll need to see how it plays out. But I have strong anecdotal evidence that Niko House is cuckoo. So we'll see how it goes. In a vacuum, though, there's nothing inherently even wrong with the CIA developing technology then selling it to private firms. I mean, isn't that how we got microwaves and radio and TV and I mean, I don't trust the CIA for shit, but the exchange of technological developments. Oh, sorry, microwaves from NASA. Yeah, the internet itself. I not to say that we should trust the CIA or whatever, just that a lot of technological advancements got passed on to the consumer market, to the private development after the government made stuff. I don't know, we'll see. Speed it up a little bit. Let me see. Can you do that? Can we speed it up at 1.25? We'll see if that's okay.
This is all, but this is all within the legal
finish.
confines here.
You finish? Okay. Now, I don't know why I have to keep saying people throw out this legal confines things. Yes, let's just go ahead and take that for granted that it's happening within a legal confine. Legal and ethical are two different things. One, like slavery was legal at one point. I think that we all know that sometimes the government will make things legal if it is convenient to their bottom line. This is not new. This is, well, I feel like this should be well understood, especially by a social democrat who I would assume is a little bit distrustful of the intelligence community.
But this isn't just
how they've tormented and literally gone after leftists.
But no, but so what you're talking about? No, but you're
I'll let you finish. Please let me finish. Thank you. So when we're talking about, let's just go ahead and talk
It's
about
already
Keyhole's,
beginning.
we're already focused on. In the press release announcing the investment, a few months later, InQtel discussed Keyhole's close collaboration with the military and intelligence partners, explained that Keyhole technology was already being successfully deployed by active military forces, in Iraq, immediately demonstrating the value of Keyhole's technology to the national security community. Now, how can then let's just say now we know obviously Keyhole.
Can you wrap it up, please? Because you have been talking for a while. You've said a lot of things I haven't been able to.
Hunter, did you invite me on here to give my explanation, or did you?
Yes, but your explanation shouldn't take this long because I also have to respond to a lot of the things you're saying.
You're trying to make me break down literally 20 to 30 years of investment.
Hunter's already a bit
all of this
heated
today, and you're just misinterpreting it, and so it makes me want to cut you off.
That you already quoted in your video like a week ago. Like, come on, relax.
No, I did more. Hold on, Nico. I did more research today. Okay, so
Nico,
when you, no, I'm gonna respond.
That's all I hear.
Yes, I am because.
Hunter, what are you responding to? I haven't
The
seen
first
you.
thing you said about how the government, the first thing you said about how the government will do anything they can to benefit their bottom dollar. So
I didn't come out here to listen to you talk. I came out here to say what I had to say, and then you can respond to my complete thought. But
okay, make your complete thought in 30 seconds, or I'm gonna cut you off again.
Oh, if you're gonna cut me off, then we don't have to have this conversation. It's really that simple. I don't have to waste my time. I'm just saying.
Can you please go get to your conclusion? Because I have something specific I'd like to respond to.
How about this? I'm your guest.
Talking over POC.
So, what my point is that one, as far as Google and Google Earth is concerned, considering it came straight from Keyhole, when you're talking about military contracts intertwined with venture capitalist funding, what is to stop Google from behaving on behalf of the government, where so much of their money and their value in their network is tied into?
Okay, so now can I please respond? So first and foremost, the answer to that is that you're again overestimating how much they actually received. Google received the two guys. Hold on, the two guys.
You literally don't know,
buddy. The two.
You don't know.
Wait, you yelled at me for not. You yelled at me for not letting me finish, and you're literally not letting me talk. So first and foremost, there were the two guys who got the grant because they were developing the search engine, and second of all, when we talk about the legality, I brought up the legality and said that giving grants is completely reasonable and totally within the confines of the law. And you said the government will do whatever they can to benefit their bottom dollar, so it doesn't matter. And I wanted to push back on that by telling you there is a constitutional clause that allows the government to give grants. So it's commonly known as the spending clause. It's Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1 of the U.S. Constitution. Okay, so this gives companies and the federal government, this gives the federal government the right, the legal right to give grants under certain conditions. So this is not like some weird law that was put in place to benefit the government's bottom dollar. This was literally like, this is part of the Constitution.
Okay, no, you gotta explain why do you think it's not a weird law that was put in place specifically to benefit the government's bottom
Because
dollar?
there's a spending clause in the U.S. Constitution. Do you think when they founded the country, they designed it to benefit the venture capitalist firms?
They did largely craft the Constitution and other policies around benefiting capitalists and landowners. Yeah, I mean, that's
so
insane.
Okay, I'm trying to parse this out because there's context here I'm not privileged to have, but I think basically Niko House is saying that there's something sussy-wussy about the government giving a grant for the tech that was like that we're referring to here. And Hunter is pointing out that's not sussy-wussy. This is like a very established thing the government does. And Niko House's retort is to say that everything the government does is sussy-wussy, which, to be fair, is true, but is also not really the point being made, because if the grant giving is perfectly in line with standard government operation, then there's not really anything... Well, shoot, he's not even saying whether or not it's bad. It's just Niko is making it seem exceptional through, like, conspiratorial language. Like, if you're like, the government used the shady process to give money to this company, and you're like, it's not a shady process, it's in the Constitution, it happens all the time. Like, just because the thing did happen doesn't mean that the tone with which the information was delivered can't be, like, incorrect or problematic.
Okay, regardless, the government is allowed to give grants, and your inference that this was some kind of new thing put forward in order to benefit the government's bottom dollar. I didn't say you said it. I said it was the inference. And I'm telling you that I'm pushing back on that. I'm pushing back on that because this isn't anything to do with...
So what I would like it is if Niko could go towards explaining how this is bad, because that would be like the better argument, right? So, like, Niko House could lose on this conspiracy bait shit, but then turn around and go like, okay, well, this is still bad, and explain why, and that would be more interesting, I think. But we'll see.
I never said that, but go ahead.
This isn't anything to benefit private or to benefit, like, this was nothing to benefit the government's bottom dollar. This is a U.S. constitutional clause, and there are also, keep in mind, there are also constraints when giving grants, right?
And I'm just trying to understand, where are you saying with absoluteness that this was in no way to benefit the government's bottom dollar? Please explain that.
Wait, well, I mean, if it benefits the bottom dollar of the government, usually that's not how grants work. So under the conditions of giving grants, the government has to have, the government can give grants as long as they believe or they're in the pursuit of the betterment of the general welfare of the public. I have this little summary here. So
the government is giving grants to people they believe they wouldn't benefit from?
No. The government's giving... Wait, no. So the government... Wait, you asked me a question. I'd like to respond. So the government gives...
Do you trust the federal government enough to give willingly, altruistically, with no intention on going to get a return on that investment, whether...
So I think Hunter is in a bit of a bad position right now for one reason, and it's because of the Mott and Bailey. So Niko House's original claim was conspiratorial, but now he's pushed Hunter into a position where Hunter feels like he has to defend the idea that the government doesn't offer grants in its own interest. Which, yeah, of course, all institutions will factor in stuff like that with, you know, a consideration for their own interests, government or not. But that's not really the thing at stake, right? Like, because that's almost tautological. That's self-evident, of course. Obviously, the government would do a thing that benefits itself. But that isn't the entirety of the claim that Niko House made. So we'll see if it moves past that. I'm interested. Again, keep in mind that I do not have all the info, like, working in with this, you know? I don't have all the information.
Whether it come as a grant or venture capitalist funding. So do you trust the government that much? Because if that's the case, I mean, that's why we're having so much disagreement.
I mean, sure, I'm not really too interested in getting into that specifics of if I trust the government or not, but rather I rather want to deliver to you. No, I just want to, dude, please, buddy.
I didn't argue about legality.
I am bringing. You said they are doing it just to benefit their bottom dollar. And under the conditions of giving grants, they have to be in the pursuit of the general welfare. So yes, if the CIA wants to invest via their capitalist venture firm, which by the way is independent of the CIA, they only receive CIA funding. No, they only receive CIA funding, but they're independent from the CIA actually. So giving that, they can totally have other uses for it. Say, hey, this social media company might benefit us in tracking terrorism. We believe this is for general welfare. This might have something that can also benefit us. Just if they see another benefit for that technology does not mean that that actual technology is some kind of a government entity. The government can access these services just like you and I can. I can look at Google Earth, so can the government. This isn't...
The government has a little bit more access than you. If you think you have as much...
Well, Google develops...
Okay, I think this is a good pushback from Hunter.
Google develops, but Google did develop specific technology for the CIA at one point, but just like they have for various other companies as well.
How old are you?
I'm 25.
Oh no. Oh no.
Have you ever served in the military?
No, how old are you?
No, I mean, have you ever served in the military?
Oh no.
No.
Oh, okay. So I served in the military. I've had my brother is former intel. I don't know if you understand how a lot of this stuff works because it seems like you're saying things that are technically true in some regards, like, yeah, it's a nonprofit. Okay. And like, of course, if I'm the CIA, which is what the CIA was created to do, is to create a buffer between legal and ethical so that you don't have to worry about either.
That's nothing but conjecture. That's purely conjecture. No, they have constitutional basis for believing what they believe.
Hunter, let me.
They have a constitutional basis for this.
You're
making up conjecture.
Constitutional basis made for literal slavery, Hunter. Are you really going to keep arguing whether something
there was a constitutional basis for slavery? I thought there was only not something that said slavery.
Okay, so Hunter's lib brain is getting in the way of his arguments here. I think what you need to do is you need to say, like, listen, okay, obviously the government acts in its self-interest. Obviously the intelligence agencies have nefarious, like, interests that don't always overlap with the interests of the American public. However, establishing those facts is not sufficient to demonstrate broader conspiratorial intent. Niko's original assertion, this infinite funding thing, I mean, all he's really succeeded in demonstrating is that a system by which grants can be delivered, which has existed since time immemorial, was used in a way consistent with its centuries-old usage. That's it, you know? If he wants to argue about the morality, that's one thing, but the conspiratorial claims and the moral claims are two different things. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Again, I'm kind of working from a position of ignorance here because I don't know the totality of the info, the preceding videos and arguments, but that's the feeling that I get. Hunter has more faith in the government than I do, but like ultimately, like I think he's a super cool dude and a smart guy. Niko is a fucking snake. So I think that I'd be willing to bet that he might be being, by he I mean Hunter, he's getting pushed into making an argument that like he would have a more nuanced answer for under other circumstances. Sorry, it was a lot of talking.
Whatever look legal, if they want it, they can make it look legal. They can pay off enough people, they can have their Congress say whatever they need to for it to be legal. That's not the question at hand. It is that undue influence potentially nefariously affecting the outcome of engagement on social media?
How would
potentially in some cases maybe even affecting the election, like the Regina Dugan situation, which I think that you're partially at least familiar with, how she left the CIA, DARPA specifically, which is the CIA's research and development.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for the 5 gifted tier 1 subs. I really appreciate that. The only reason ivermectin is working for those who push is because they're suffering from brain worms and it's a dewormer. True! It's their only hope, really. We shouldn't besmirch it. Thank you so much.
No, pause. No, she's not one person from the CIA. She's also the former head of research and technology in Google, and she went from Google directly to Facebook in 2016 during the election and left after the election was over.
So you realize why I'm having I think I know why we're breaking here is because I seem to be trying to deliver you like the facts as long as how like the Constitution recognizes it and how like the legality of what this means, and then you're kind of giving me nothing but conspiracy theories about how yes you did, you were like no you did, you said hold on wait I let you buddy I let you talk for 5 whole minutes straight. Now it's my turn to actually respond.
Hunter has the smarmy thing down so fucking hard. Holy shit, god damn it.
And then going to Facebook.
So you are peddling
conspiracy theories. Look up on Google.
No, you're peddling conspiracy theories by saying I worked in the. No, you. No, you.
Absent of logic. When your facts are absent of logic, it doesn't matter how quote unquote how many facts you got right. You're quoting meaningless facts without context because you don't seem to have any real life
I'm not.
experience.
Wait. You're all right. You're muted. No, you're muted. All right. So you literally are.
Oh god, it's already happening. Dude, this is exactly like my conversation with Niko House. Like, no issues are solved, and it immediately turns into a shit show. Every time, man. God damn it. Oh god.
Accusing me of using meaningless facts. Do you realize how stupid you sound when you say something like that? You are giving me a conspiracy theory because I'm explaining to you the legality of this issue and how it falls in line with the US Constitution. And you're saying, well, I had a brother and I work in the military, so I know about the intelligence thing, and they're actually just trying to make a buffer between legality and ethics. This is pure conjecture. You're telling me a story, and that's why I'm calling it a conspiracy theory. Thank you. Now it's very nice being able to talk uninterrupted. You're now unmuted. Go for it.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. If you wanna leave, you can do that.
You won't let me talk. So what am I supposed to do?
Well, no, because you want to cut me off with nonsense and then spew things that I didn't say, then try to pretend as if
you were literally still talking when you were muted.
God, it's legal. You just had a 40-minute conversation about how it's legal for the CIA to do what the CIA wants. Duh. That's the CIA. They can do whatever the hell they want to. I don't even
this is conspiracy based.
There's nothing conspiratorial about the history of the CIA.
That the CIA is paying people off to change the laws. Oh my god, dude. Yeah, I didn't realize you were so fucking deep in these conspiracy theories. I know. I think I need to go work in the military for a little while. Have you checked out Alex Jones? I mean, he seems like he'd be right up your alley with some of this stuff.
What did Alex Jones have? Did Alex Jones call Regina Dugan a conspiracy theory? Like, you can't just Google her fucking work history?
I'm sorry, I didn't call I called you a conspiracy theorist.
More like
You said that I called
her work history. Bringing up her work history is actually conspiracy theory.
Oh my god, I can't believe we're only 15 minutes in this conversation and it's derailed to this fucking extent. So again, your original claim was I know you're right. It's so not serious. But anyway, your original claim was that the CIA is giving unlimited funding to Google and Facebook when that is just not true. Google received because you can read the grant history. What do you mean?
They give money. They have a venture capitalism firm. They give money. They don't have to disclose exactly how much it is.
So you realize, but you're thinking of this as being nefarious when it's not. So again, no. I get to respond first because government subsidies exist and government invests in other areas of science all the time to try and actually benefit that industry, right? So for example, when it came, all right, hold on, I'm gonna have to mute you really quick so I can finish my thought. So when it came to like the atomic bomb.
Oh god. Oh no. I think Hunter, because I can tell this is already going to be unproductive shit. I think that Hunter would benefit from asking a lot of questions, you know? Or maybe some more questions right now. Because the road here, at least optically, ends in shit libbery, you know? I wonder if the better route would be to, like, fixate on what specifically is being discussed, you know? Because it does come off, I know he can't get a word in, it does come off like he's kind of just, like, defending intel agencies' moral worth. I know that's not what he's doing, like, that's not what he's focusing on. He's trying to push back against the conspiracy. It's just, that's where the, you know, things are kind of getting focused on. Stuff like that will happen with the Jimmy Dore types, because you can talk with them, you know, they'll say like this happened all the time with the Bernier Busters, right? The Democratic Party, you know, does bias the outcome of who wins its primaries, you know, but they would lie and say shit like the Democratic Party will never let any socialist ever, no left-leaning person, it's impossible to, which I disagree with. I don't think that's true. And you can be like, okay, well, that's not true. Like, look, like this happened, and this happened, this happened. Like, it's bad, but it's not, like, impossible. We shouldn't give up on trying. And they'll be like, are you defending the Democratic Party right now? Are you saying the Democratic Party right now is fair and not biased? And you're like, well, no, but they're not these specific things you're saying are untrue. And they're like, so you're saying they're not biased? And you're like, well, they're not that biased. They're like, so you think it's not that biased? It's a total shit show. Anyway.
For example, these were private citizens, scientists working that the government then stepped in to help them because they too saw a benefit there. The government stepping in, giving you grants, giving you subsidies, one, doesn't make you an agent of the state, and two, it is literally desired. A lot of these small tech companies want to get a phone call from Inquitel because that helps them get their foot in the door in Washington and start receiving federal grants and federal recognition, which helps their company grow. Again, just if the government sees a secondary use for some technology, so they give a grant, this means nothing. This doesn't make it into an agent of the state. And also, there's not unlimited funding to Google and Facebook. They received like a couple grants when they were startups, and that was the end of it. All right, you're unmuted now. Thanks.
Okay, so you're familiar with SpaceX? Of course you are. So do you know that the only way you can invest in SpaceX is to actually buy stocks in Google?
Did you know that we weren't at all talking about SpaceX? What does this have to do with anything?
This is a. Oh my God, bro! Answer the question. It's a yes or a no answer.
No, I'm not answering it because it's irrelevant.
You don't know if you knew it or not. It's a yes or a no fucking question.
Did you have frosted flakes for breakfast? Did you have frosted flakes for breakfast? If we're gonna just ask, if we're just asking random questions, then I'm gonna go for it too.
It's a yes or a no question. If it's not a big deal, if you think it's gonna be some one-off conversation that isn't gonna add to the argument, then you have nothing to fear, Hunter. Just answer the question.
What was the question again?
I said, did you know that the only way that you can invest into SpaceX is to invest in Google?
I haven't heard of that, but I also don't believe you since everything else you've said thus far has been a lie.
Don't believe it. It's fine. Don't believe it. It's fine. You can literally just Google it, like you can Google Regina Dugan's jobs. But hey, I guess everything.
Well, again, this has nothing to do with what we just talked about, so I'm not really sure what.
Real quick, I'm gonna learn you something real quick. So.
Oh, okay.
Every point made is a battle.
Educate me, Daddy.
They eventually ended up not partnering, they literally have a contract with the Pentagon because now the Pentagon plans on using SpaceX to deliver equipment and specifically weapons around the world in less than a couple of hours. Now, do you think SpaceX had...
Wait, I'm sorry. Am I dumb as fuck? Yes, I am. Okay. In addition to me being dumb as fuck, did he just say you have to buy stock in Apple in order to weigh in on SpaceX? In Google. In Google. Sorry, in Google. Okay, fine, Google. Why would that be the case? If anyone in chat can find out why he said that, I would appreciate it. Apparently, he's just pointed the fact that Google has partial ownership in SpaceX. Oh, okay. SpaceX isn't publicly traded. Well, then we wouldn't have an expectation for anyone to have any control over any of their processes, right? Because they're not publicly traded. I mean, couldn't you just say that, like, did you know that you can't control the door to Greg's garage unless you're Greg and you own his house? Yeah. Okay.
Had a choice.
I'm literally not answering any of these questions, considering we're talking about... Wait. I initiated...
Oh, no.
Hunter,
I said I wanted to talk to you about CIA giving unlimited funding to Google and Facebook.
I'm gonna explain to you how the shit works.
Then can you just get to the point? Because you're taking forever to get there.
Jesus fucking Christ, Hunter. Jesus Christ, bro. You take your ADHD medication? Like, because if you did, I need you to go take that shit. Shut the fuck up and let me finish, please. Thank you. So, like I was saying...
Ableism.
QTEL had a hand in both Google and SpaceX. Now, SpaceX does exactly what the government does, the same Department of Defense that the Pentagon belongs to, that CIA belongs to. That I mean, I feel like I don't have to explain that one any further. Okay. Do you think that the security of SpaceX will still be what it is today if they decided I'm going to cut all of my contracts with both the CIA and the Pentagon? And do you think that Tesla, who is obviously we know in charge of SpaceX and the founder of SpaceX, do you think that those subsidies that he got for Tesla, I mean, a company that was literally operating out of the red, do you think that has anything to do with the fact that he secured those contracts?
Do you think that receiving funding or grants or subsidies makes you in any way like an agent of the state?
I feel like you didn't hear anything.
Well, I'm not really trying to entertain the irrelevant questioning that you seem to be...
no. Okay. Fuck. I don't understand what Niko House's point is. What is he trying to get at here? The government does things that benefit the government? I wish we could center on this, you know? Sometimes I feel like I'm being led down a, like, you know, like the Da Vinci Code-esque trail to unearth some completely fucking irrelevant piece of information. Like, you have a 30-minute conversation with somebody, and they're like, okay, well, did you know if you take a look at the corporate board here, here, and here, these are people who previously served on this board, and these people all received grants for this. And then when you, like, step back and look at the big picture, it's like, oh, the government did something it's always done. That's crazy. Well, wait, the government has contracts with private businesses for, like, military reasons? They do that? Oh my god. Dude, that's wild. You found that out. You should bring this to the New York Times. But like the path to get there feels so exciting, you know? It would be like watching somebody build one of those conspiracy boards with like the pins and the string that you make the connections between. But then like, and it looks really impressive. But then when you step away, it's like the Arby's menu, you know? Like they've connected the Arby's menu to a bunch of ingredients. It's like frozen beef goes to the burger. It goes to this burger. It goes to the. It's you're like, wait, what was the point of all this? And they're like, now you know. And they fucking run away.
You trying to take me down, which has nothing to do with anything.
State is using SpaceX.
I don't know. I didn't know we were here to talk about SpaceX.
Around the world, and we live in the biggest empire in history. I mean, Hunter, if I gotta break it down to you that much.
Do you want to go read the DMs again? Because I explicitly said I wanted to talk to you about what you said on the Better Discourse thing, and it was about the CIA specifically.
I am explaining to you. You just asked me specifically, and I'm answering your question. Why does that mean this? They're gonna do the.
Basically, his point is that the CIA funding SpaceX means SpaceX is a slave to the government/CIA and is therefore part of every single nefarious plot by the government/CIA to do illegal shit by virtue of them receiving funding from the government and CIA. God, I wish... Okay. This isn't really like a field of quote-unquote research that I'm super familiar with, but as I understand it, I'm pretty sure that the American government is weak as fuck when it comes to controlling the corporations within it. Like... I could be totally off base on this, but I'm pretty sure that, like, this is more, like, politicians in Washington fucking begging on their hands and knees to stay in the good graces of corporations who have an enormous amount of legal power when it comes to, like, maintaining control over their IP and their technology and their research and development and all that, you know? Like, the problem with our country isn't that the government is bullying corporations into doing their will. It's the opposite. It's that corporations have a ton of power and influence, that politicians all fucking finish their terms to go serve on as like consultants on corporate boards, or you have a ton of regulatory capture, or Trump making like fucking a ton of cabinet positions open to people who are contemptuous of the government facilities that they were meant to be overseeing while promoting private alternatives, you know? Maybe you could argue it's a little bit different with, like, the CIA or whatever, because they aren't a political org in the same way, you know? Nobody, like, we don't elect a director of the FBI or whatever, you know? They just kind of show up from the ether. But I don't... I really don't think that the CIA is, like, threatening companies. What power would they have? When was the last time like a business leader got disappeared and it was like right after they reneged on a contract with the government? I don't know if I've ever heard of this happening. Why would they need to? The corporations make a ton of money from these like grants and from these investments and contracts. I don't know. Feels like it's the opposite. I feel like in a lot of ways, lefties, and Niko House isn't a lefty, but I'll just say broadly, tend to really overestimate the independent power of our intelligence agencies. Not to say they're not powerful. They're exceedingly powerful. But I don't know if they're that powerful independently. I feel like they're dogs on chains, that they tend to act in an uncoordinated way when unsupervised, and they only really, like, fuck shit up when, like, a corporate or a political backing, oh, fuck, it's an Archon plate. A superior Archon plate at that. Holy shit. Yeah, they tend not to talk to each other either. So, yeah, I don't know. That doesn't mean they're not fucking evil. It just means that they're evil in a different way that a lot of people claim. You guys get what I mean, right? I'm no expert on this stuff. That's just the impression that I've gotten from what I've read and when I see experts talk on this stuff.
Bidding of the state, because I just gave you an example of the bidding of the state.
Gotta get 4 sockets. I want 3 actually, sadly.
They have a vested interest, literally a vested interest into doing the bidding of the state. Because if they do not, they can have their contracts and their funding and plethora of other things. I'm sure.
So
snatched under them.
No, because you're misunderstanding how subsidies and grants work.
So work with the government in the real world.
So you're misunderstanding how grants work actually. So there are like first of all,
no, we're not talking about a grant with SpaceX. Just as the example I was just talking about. I'm not talking about a grant.
You're talking about subsidies, right? Like government, like
so if we're talking about Tesla,
again, I don't know. Was it Tesla or was it SpaceX?
Because the reason I brought up Tesla is because Elon Musk is the head guy for both. He got his subsidies first through Tesla, even though it didn't make any sense because there were other people developing electric car technology that was actually more affordable and didn't.
So, right. So do I think that might compromise his ability or whatnot? Here's the thing, though, again, is you have to recognize when these subsidies, when these grants, whatever, when they are given, when this funding is put forward, they are allowed to have conditions, but they're not able to really step in there and be like, you must do this, and you must give me exclusive access to this. That's not how it works. Usually when it's subsidies, the reason they subsidize those areas is because they see a benefit to the general public and the general welfare of this thing, and they also decide to invest in it to help grow that one small private company, because they might see a broader use for it. It could be the Central Intelligence Community. It could also be an entirely unrelated thing to the CIA. Virtually anyone can give grants. So, again, I'm not sure what exactly your argument is here. Just because they,
honestly, I don't even know how to have a conversation with you because you live in a fantasy world. Like, I just didn't imagine having to come here and explain to you, hey, the CIA is nefarious. Like literally the same intelligence community that was responsible.
Okay. The problem is this discussion isn't really on whether the CIA is nefarious. It's on like the technicalities of money transfers through legal processes. Like this is what I mean. Like it feels like a big Mott and Bailey, you know? I don't think Hunter Avallone is here defending the morality of the CIA. I think he's just saying that everything that is happening is what you would expect to happen. It's not like some nefarious conspiracy theory.
Responsible for the overthrowing multiple.
If you don't trust the CIA, then who do you trust? If you don't trust like our intelligence systems, then who do you trust?
Are you serious? Do you genuinely trust the CIA?
I'm asking you who you trust. Do you trust them? Do you trust them?
Niko should be able to answer this.
Trust the CIA.
Well, you said it's.
I'm a black man in America.
What does that have to do with anything? What?
I would trust the CIA, bro. I'm genuinely curious.
Wait, so if you don't trust the CIA or you don't trust like our institutions, then what do you trust? Who do you trust?
That are gathered through primary sources.
Okay, so there's a critical distinction. I'm coming out for your boy Hunter here. There's a critical distinction here that I would like it if he would clarify between trusting the CIA and trusting them to do a thing, okay? So I think what Hunter is referring to here is trusting the CIA with regards to info from the intel community that you can only really get from the intel community. So, for example, like the kind of reports that come out from the CIA, like sometimes there's info there that literally only the CIA or comparable agencies could acquire because there are intelligence agencies, you know? Like sometimes there is info where you have no source but them. And sometimes you shouldn't trust that info, at least not at face value. But sometimes it's I think, more reasonable, depending on the interests involved, the potential biases, conflicts of interest, that kind of stuff. So what Hunter is asking right now is, who do you trust? Like, where do you get your info from? And Niko has to have a good answer for this, because if he doesn't trust the CIA to provide any info, there does need to be another institution, another, like, place from which he gets his information. Yes, it is interesting that he's complaining about this, while Niko House is literally a employee of Russia Today, or a contributor to, which is state propaganda, directly.
Is the CIA not ever a primary source? Do you think maybe the CIA has access to information that we as the regular public doesn't?
Lies for a living, Hunter. I don't know how else can I explain this to you. They lie.
He's not really explaining.
I just don't think you realize how silly you sound when you say, I don't trust the CIA, I just trust hard data. Like, how do you know? How do you find that? How do you go about, like, if you don't trust our institutions, then...
See, Hunter isn't talking about the morality of the CIA. He's talking about the information that we get from our intelligence communities. And it is true, sometimes there's info that you literally just can't get except from intel agencies, right? I mean, and sometimes you can trust their info, I think. The FBI, for instance, has spent decades talking about the infiltration of the police by white supremacist groups. Do we think that the FBI is, like, biased against white supremacy and cops? Like, that would be an interesting bias, you know? Like, oh, you can't trust the FBI's word on this. They have a long-standing hatred for the police and white supremacy, you know? It's not just an organization homogeneously dedicated towards the dissemination of misinformation. It usually has to do with protecting, like, America's interests, whether or not those harm people, you know?
Who the fuck do you trust?
His own people. Hold on. The same CIA that said Gaddafi was killing his own people, only to find out he was the elected chairman of the African Union. And it was actually Chad who had a leader that we actually installed in order to get Gaddafi out. And then we let him told him to send terrorists over to Libya, then forced Gaddafi to defend himself, claimed that he was killing his own people. But instead, once Gaddafi was finally assassinated, which was ultimately the goal for humanitarian efforts, we have open market slavery in Libya, by the way. Doesn't seem like the humanitarian aid is necessary now all of a sudden. But we made sure to arrest the former head of Chad that we installed. put him on the ICC so he couldn't talk. You mean that CIA?
So you realize that? Okay, so
That's
first
a
of
lot
all,
of
I
info.
never said the CIA was. I never said. Hold on.
That admitted that they were lying about Stalin the
Buddy,
entire time.
I never said the CIA is just should only be like trusted 100% of the time. It was just kind of ironic that you came on here and told me that I was spewing meaningless facts and then tried to shit on me for like listening to certain aspects of what the CIA said when it comes to their venture capitalist firm. Again, I don't know how hard I don't know how many times I need to like repeat myself, and also I'm trying really hard to get us back on subject, but your original claim was that CIA is providing unlimited funding to Google and Facebook, and you're unable to substantiate that at all. In-Q-Tel gave grants at the beginning phases of the companies, and that was it.
CIA gave grants. No, you're confusing. CIA gave grants to college students that started Google. You're talking about, no, that's not. In-Q-Tel invest. They don't give grants. So continue.
All right, I got you. Yes, but when they give, well, actually, no, that's not true. In-Q-Tel can invest in certain ways, but the CIA, or I think it was another company as well. I don't remember the name. I think it was MDDS. Those were grants. It was in 1995, and it was one of the first and most promising grants. And they went to the computers. It was for the future Google co-founders for the development of the Google search engine. So again, the CIA or the intelligence community saw a benefit in that technology, so they gave a grant.
I love this shit.
But that grant doesn't mean that Google becomes an arm of the CIA or does anything for the CIA or follows the CIA's orders. That's not how this is. So that's what I was trying to.
Okay, so we have literally almost a century now of just example after example after example of how the CIA manipulates their status.
Okay, yep. See, this is what I mean by conspiracy brain. So Niko House at this point is put in a position where he has to provide some kind of evidence to justify his claims, and instead he just backs up and goes, "Oh, well, you can't trust the CIA." That's not evidence for shit. That's nothing. That's jack shit. That's worth absolutely nothing. You can't. What institution is? Also, it's really funny again that as a contributor to Russia Today that he would say this when the Russian government is one of the most blatant propaganda farms around in the world right now, with highly active intel communities that disseminate knowingly and flagrantly disseminate misinformation in countries abroad to influence like political outcomes. Not to say that we don't do that too, but like the idea that like he would literally work for that organization is fucking wild.
Does all the work does all the work in the shadows to get the outcome that they want for the elite, never for us. If you can give me an example that you'd like to cite where something was done for us, I would really appreciate it. But it's never been for us. So you actually believe that when Silicon Valley became what it became, like when it was like in their onset or in its onset, like the CIA literally started interviewing thousands. I mean, almost all of the companies that were starting up at the time in the area because they just had altruistic and magnanimous intentions, Hunter.
Well, they literally saw benefits. They saw ways, sure.
Okay, see, he did it again. So Hunter said, you have no evidence that the CIA provided infinite funding and controls these companies like dogs on a leash. And Niko House said, well, don't you agree that the CIA is bad and also that they act in their own interest? That's not an answer to the question. This is why populism is brain cancer. Yeah, the problem is that there's nothing wrong with populism as like a rhetorical and organizational strategy. But populism it must always be considered a rhetorical affect, a means of organization, never an argument itself. You always, when arguing the facts of an issue, you have to defer to policy, to fact, to reason, to argument, to logic, to blah, blah. Populism isn't a substitution for those things. It's just a way of collecting the public's interest. Marx understood this. Marx literally wrote the fucking, oh my god, I'm literally forgetting the name of the pamphlet that he wrote to distribute to peasants for revolutionary potential. Guys, please, holy shit, my brain. Help me out. The Communist Manifesto, literally, oh my god. Marx literally wrote the Communist Manifesto, which is undeniably a work of populist political organization. But guys, if you read, like, Das Kapital, are you reading, like, populist drivel? Is it just him going over and over, like, dude, the elites are bad. Like, look, like, they're bad. You really think they're not bad? Dude, look, they're the elites. They're bad. Like, no, of course not. In the actual analysis that he engages in, he is incredibly thorough and thoughtful and methodical. He understands that populism, I don't even know if that was a term people used back then, but he understands that populism is a rhetorical affect. It's a way of delivering information, but it is not a way of creating information or analyzing information. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? Please, I feel like this is borderlining on profound. Can you just listen to me? This is why I defend populism, okay? I think it's a valuable rhetorical and organizational affect. It's just a lot of people think, like, yeah.
Some of it could have been like something that we don't like. They could have seen it as a way to track people or data mine or whatnot. But again, just if they see an ulterior use for a software and then they give a grant to it, this does not mean that that thing becomes an agent of the state. And it also doesn't mean that they're following CIA orders. For example, when you brought up the Google Earth thing, when you actually read about it, I have this this article up right here on my screen for anybody that's watching over on my end. But Google acquired the company. They purchased the company, and that was it. So, like, the idea that so do you wait.
Purchased the company, they purchased Google. They called it Google Earth, and then
they changed it, and they developed it, and they also put it towards technology, and they put it towards technology that we all use, and they put it towards technology that we they put it towards technology that we all use to this day. For example, Google Maps, Street View. This all came from the original 3D Earth or Earth Viewer, which again, just if it's
you think that they gave tens of millions of dollars to these companies or acquired them for tens of because of Street View, Hunter?
No.
I'll let Hunter respond, and then I'll respond.
I think that they saw a use for the 3D mapping software, and then they purchased it. What do you mean?
Google Earth wasn't just used to spy on people's girlfriends. Like, most of its applications are not. We can't use.
What? What? I feel like you could be a pretty stupid person and think of like a dozen reasons why an intelligence agency might want the kind of technology Google developed for their Google Street View and other things like that. Like, I don't feel like it's that much of a stretch, but it could just be a regular transaction. It doesn't necessarily involve like the indebted servitude of the company afterwards. They could just buy it. Like, what do they think is going to happen to if the fucking Google says no? Do they think the feds are going to like murk the fucking board of investors of Google? When has that ever happened? This isn't China. If we were in China, a country I'm pretty sure Niko House defends, that might actually be a thing that they would do, because China has a ruthless free market economy. As long as you're serving the interests of the state. And the nanosecond that you're not, they will come down on you very, very hard. So if we were in China, that would actually be like pretty plausible, I think, because they have a established, almost policy-driven desire to force companies to bend to their will. But I don't know if things have been demonstrated to that extent here in the States. And even if they have, can't we just say the CIA is bad without being conspiratorial about it? This is the thing. You don't need to be conspiratorial to not like the CIA. I feel this way about 9/11 truthers as well, or like a bunch of other conspiracy theorists. Like, usually the organizations they dislike, you can hate for regular reasons, you know? Like, if you want to hate the FBI, you don't have to make anything up. You can just look at what the FBI has admitted to doing, and then hate them for that. Just go up to an FBI agent, ask, hey, what are some of the things that you have done? And then hate whatever he says. You don't have to be conspiratorial about it. Like, shoo. You could just ask them. It's pretty blatant some of the time, you know? The CIA, you just go look at the Wikipedia article on CIA. You don't have to make up a goddamn thing. Not a goddamn thing about the CIA does one have to make up in order to hate them. It's very, very blatant.
It's literally the intelligence community that can take full advantage of everything.
This is not true.
Google Earth. Are you kidding me?
No, you're
You really think you have as much access to the same technology?
No, I didn't say that we have the same access to the same technology, but the idea that Google Earth is somehow only built specifically for the CIA and they have access to all the special features that we don't is absolutely ridiculous. Second of all, I know, hold on, buddy, I know what you're sorting, okay? And it's that in like 2003, the CIA purchased search application software developed by Google for them to use, but again, Google was selling this technology to all kinds of places. It wasn't just to the CIA, they sold it to energy firms as well. I'm pretty sure that's what you're referencing, and them developing software specifically for the government, that's not a conspiracy, that's not a bad thing.
CIA had Keyhole first, then Google bought it. Oh, no, I don't think we're talking about. I don't think you're talking about the same thing.
I am talking. So yes, so the CIA developed software that they used for foreign affairs, like looking at right here during the 2003 invasion of Iraq, and then yes, through the company Keyhole, and then Google came along and purchased
Keyhole
the company.
means butthole.
Purchase Keyhole, yeah.
So they owned the company. They own no, they own no. They. I'm sorry, they didn't buy Keyhole. They didn't buy. I'm sorry. Wait. I messed up. I made a mistake. They didn't buy Keyhole. I think it was just the CIA-backed mapping startup specifically. Unless was Keyhole only about EarthViewer? So EarthViewer isn't the only technology. Why would Google want Keyhole? Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, my mistake. I wanted to just make sure I was correct here with the sources. So yeah, they acquired Keyhole and then went on to just continue to develop that technology for their own use.
Your dad's Keyhole.
I don't know how this is like a conspiracy. Like you're the one who's making this sound.
You're literally like, yeah, the CIA bought something, then developed the technology for their own use, and I don't. What do you think
and then Google acquired it, and now it's a public thing that everybody uses.
What do you think the CIA uses all of this shit for? Like,
okay, see, this is what I mean. Okay, notice Niko like can never actually tie together the loops on the conspiracy theory ever. He always runs away from it. So he keeps like again like these big gestures at some very like scary big conspiracy theory of like government control and the feds controlling Google and blah blah. But like every time Hunter asks a question that would require the not to be tied, so to speak, he runs away from it, you know? Which is a shame because like it really is a shame that investigative reporting is such a sham in this country, you know? That like there are so many fake fucking grifty shit fucks who pretend to be investigative reporters, which really sucks, you know? Because investigative reporters are something we really need right now. Can you imagine if the grift fucking Fred Hampton leftist RT crowd or whatever, the Jimmy Dore types, can you imagine if they actually gave a fuck and they actually did investigative research? Like they dug around old files and would like unearth archives and like interview people and put together stuff and do like a big expose? Can you imagine if we had people who were like Project Veritas, except actually doing the thing Project Veritas fake's doing? How fucking nice would that be? But instead, it all gets like completely fucked. Because now all people associate investigative journalism with is like Alex Jones tier conspiracy bait, you know? Look, if you can produce really compelling evidence of if you can produce really compelling evidence of the CIA doing some fucky control shit, that's based. Produce the fuck out of it, you know? Like, make that public. I support the hell out of you. But they don't. They just gesture, you know? And they fearmonger over things that you really shouldn't have to. Because they're bad without needing to fearmonger.
That's the shit I get confused about, I guess, Hunter. Because you're like, yeah, the CIA developed it for its own use. What else? There's nothing wrong with that.
So when we're talking, are you talking about specifically EarthViewer? Are you talking specifically EarthViewer in this instance here?
Because I mean, you can talk about EarthViewer, I guess, but I'm talking about generally speaking. You keep speaking as if like, oh, they're just buying the technology and developing it for its own use. Yeah.
So the CIA developed. The CIA developed some of the 3D mapping that came to EarthViewer. They developed some of that software for their own reason. And then later, that software was acquired by Google, owned by Google, and no longer was under the control at all of the CIA. So that was the first thing. Second of all, when you're talking about the brands, again,
no longer under the control of the CIA whenever the CIA literally has
because where do you have the where's any evidence that they are?
With Google. They have the
contracts are different. I already know about this. Okay, listen, this is literally. Hold on, I have a source here, right here. Okay, Google makes.
What a contract is? I know what a contract is.
I know the contract you're talking about is the thing I already tried to address, which was from 2003.
So you just talked about
this farming is going well. In case you guys are wondering.
How important it is for a lot of these startup companies that they want to become untouchable to get funding specifically and contract specifically with the US.
Doesn't make them untouchable.
Now
you're lacing this with so much fucking falsehoods.
Specifically, if I'm the CIA and I know how many companies want my contracts, what is it you think that I'm going to give my contracts that everybody wants?
So here's right here. So I'm going to give you a source now, which is a former CIA. Let's see.
Oh well, I'm sure that should be trustworthy.
Former CIA, the deputy director position. This joint let's see, intelligent. Hold on, I'm trying to speed scan this here, so I can give you some quick info here. So IMO Director John Brantley said during an interview this morning at CIA headquarters in McLean, VA, that the office has purchased 2 Google search appliances, one for its secret networks and one for its top secret networks. Google makes 3 models of the appliance. The basic unit uses 1 PC, and the larger units have either 5 or 8 PCs linked by a total balancing device. and says Google supplied IMO with high-end models under a custom contract. Again, completely fine, completely within, well, I know you don't want to talk about the legality, but there's nothing really shady about this. She said Google normally sells the devices as part of a service. A Google spokesman said the company also has provided the appliances to the Army, the Energy Department, and other agencies that he declined to name. So just if Google develops technology for certain arms of the government does not mean that it's that like Google is part of the government in and of itself. And second of all, just if the CIA or anyone that gives grants sees a benefit to that technology, that doesn't mean that that technology becomes an agent of the state or an asset of the CIA.
That's literally not how the CIA works. I mean, first of all, if you're
They gave grants. I thought we just talked
if you
about
are
this.
literally, I'm telling you by definition, if you are embedded with the CIA anyway, you have officially become an asset, or if you're either an asset officially or you're an unofficial asset.
But we're not talking. But we're talking about grants.
Huh? Say it again.
We're talking about grants here. That doesn't make you an agent of the state.
About them being contracted to create technology that the CIA uses.
Well, yeah, that's just the government. That's the government hiring the private sector to do some work for them.
Okay,
This is completely normal.
They contracted with SpaceX, and now there's a revolving door where SpaceX does whatever the hell. I'm just giving you an example, another one, where SpaceX does whatever the hell the Pentagon tells them to. Now, do you think SpaceX would be safe if they stopped listening to the Pentagon? They're like, nope, we don't want to do that. We're not going to allow our technology to transport weapons in a couple of hours around the world. What do you think happens to SpaceX?
I don't know. I mean, what do you want to tell me?
Realistically speaking, they would tank. They would be destroyed. I mean, that's how it works.
What,
you don't survive.
Realistically speaking,
which is why
that's actually not true. So
wait, hold on. Okay, hold on. I could be super fucked up. Aren't the money that like Tesla and shit gets or whatever? That money, it's not from like the government giving them money. It's from the subsidies in the industries. Right? Like the money that they're receiving is the money that you would expect to receive based on the laws on the books. Like even if they defied the will of the Pentagon. SpaceX is explicitly contracted with NASA. Yeah, but I don't know if NASA is doing the will of the CIA. And even if they, I mean like for their subsidies and shit. Hold on, why do people keep linking this?
Thing that's completely untrue within every single like medical consensus.
Well then,
Oh, is this Danny? Do I like this person? I'm following them. They must be cool.
Gender is biological. This is something that's completely untrue within every single like medical consensus.
well then, I will just say that anyone who suggests that gender has no reference whatsoever to biology, it's not connected in any way to biology.
Concession. Immediate concession. Ben. He keeps saying fucking sex and gender are the same thing. And then he's like, and then you're like, well, no, they're not. And he's like, well, are you saying that there's no association whatsoever? Wow, holy Danny, how the fuck did you get him to do that with one question? Jesus Christ.
Is just full of shit. Because if the and the reason
he completely backed off. She's a DGG or 60. I think this is the person who I unfollowed. This is one of the people that I unfollowed, but then she said, I just took a horse dildo to the hilt. Vaush, refollow me. And I have to stay true to my principles, so I refollowed her. I think that was on stream.
And the reason that I say
then you actually just disagree with medical consensus within the Western nation.
Yes, I disagree with the false medical consensus driven by politically driven, quote-unquote,
gender.
I think if the follow-up statement had been, you have for years said sex and gender are the same. If now you are retreating to the position that they are merely related, then I have already won. And then punch this person out. I think that would have been the best possible outro. All the same, pretty good. Also, good on you for getting up there and speaking. I know that it's really difficult and the audience is against you. I think that's Chad or Stacy. Is it weird that I feel okay saying like you're a Chad to cis women, but if they're wait, is Danny even trans? Wait, I forget. Everyone on Twitter is trans. Are they even trans? I don't even know anymore. They are? Okay. I don't even... Yeah, okay. I guess, but I'd say Stacy there? I don't know. Whatever. We're all trans today. I don't care. Good job. All right.
So, for example, that would be a violation of the way that some of these subsidies or donations or funding or grants also work. So you're not actually...
a single example of a time where the CIA is held accountable.
Wait,
Didn't
this
we
is an
just- didn't our
irrelevant
government
pivot.
literally
Holy
bomb the
shit!
shit out of
So
innocent people
let me go ahead and give you this
and they
here,
were like,
okay?
"Nah, it's all
So
good.
again, I'm
Come on, man."
gonna go back to actually it was a 1987 Supreme Court decision, and this is talking about the government's right to give subsidies, grants, funding, that kind of thing, right? And one of those requirements is that you cannot cross the line from enticement to coercion. So the state or the government
Okay.
cannot say
They have
that we're
ever
going to
been-
sink your
CIA
business
ever-
on.
You're
Hold
quoting
on.
Supreme Court cases and laws
they
that
are not-
literally the CIA has never had to adhere to. They've
So
never had to adhere to
when
laws.
they
Let
are
me give you an
given
example
when they are
where
given
broke the
grants
law
when
time
they're
and time again, and
when-
they've been held
when-
accountable,
when they-
then I'll be more likely to
So when
listen
they're
to your-
given
to your
grants,
assertion,
the federal government is not able to say, "Hey, if you don't accept our funding here,
How are they
or if
not
you don't take
able
this
to
grant,
say it? Where
we
are
are
you
going to
getting
tank your business." What do you mean? What am I?
Where do you
These are the
think those
this is
laws come from?
these are the
Where are
limits.
you getting this, Hunter? You don't live in the real world, bro. I'm not.
I'm
trying to
reading
be
you a
You're
1987
not
Supreme Court
you're
decision,
not-
dude.
Give me an example. You're reading facts without understanding real life context and real life application. Give me a single time.
Listen, you got facts, okay? But what you don't got is logic, Hunter. All right, now here's some logic for you. Did you know the CIA is bad? Did you, Hunter? Hunter? Did you know that the CIA is that the CIA is bad? Did you know that? Okay, that's the logic. This is the anti-hypothetical shit all over again. Niko House is like, he's got an amazing brain. I think, guys, I'm mixing my grifters over. He got mad at me one time on Twitter because I said the N-word once, right? Or like somebody pointed out like, hey, why are you working with a Nazi? And he's like, well, Posobiec never called me the N-word. It was like in reference to me. I've never called him the N-word, but I guess said the N-word. Or something like that. He said that in a panel. Yeah, no Nazi never called me the N-word. Yeah, I don't know about that one. True. Fucking Muhammad Ali moment. Jesus Christ. That's funny. Did you at least call him? I've never fucking called a black person the N-word. Jesus Christ, guys. Okay? That's a you guys thing, all right? I don't know. Like, it could be wrong or something. Just Niko House, I don't know if he's actually said this or if he just seems like the type who would say this, but I feel like he would do like the Blair White, like, I don't actually care about white people saying the N-word thing. I just care about the elites. Because Brianna Joy Gray did that, remember? Brianna Joy Gray was like, yeah, it was like the, what was it exactly? Like, I wouldn't even care about the N-word if black people had the same economic rights as white people or something. It was some class reductionist take. I don't know. But I think Brianna Joy Gray is a part of their circle, isn't she? Doesn't Brianna Joy Gray, like, kind of hang out with the Jimmy Dore crowd on Twitter a little bit? Yeah, under socialism, the N-word would have no power over me. Which is kind of a badass thing to say, to be honest. If you take away all the dumb fuck class reductionist shit surrounding it, it's a little bit of a badass thing to say, but it's still dumb. Okay, hold on. We're talking to counterpoints sometimes here. How long does this conversation go?
Is this how you try to win arguments?
Law, we know the CIA violates international law and domestic law all the time. We know this for a fact. We can look at the Snowden leaks. You can look at the goddamn WikiLeaks. Whichever one you want.
This
Give me a
isn't
single
what we were
time
talking
where the
about.
CIA has ever
Oh,
been,
you get mad.
Have you considered putting on like a mask?
At
Because
work,
holy shit, dude,
where the
you
CIA
should be like,
literally the Bay of
you should be
Pigs,
Miss
they
Incredible
went
with these
under-
stretches, dude. This is
they
insane.
went under
Elastigirl over
JFK's
here.
nose.
We got
And they
Elastigirl
literally
over here with
tried
this
to
level of
start a
stretch.
war with Cuba, and they've literally never been held accountable for it.
That
Okay,
was
so
such
was
a-
the question?
That you are
Oh my
advocating
God,
for the-
Nico.
you're advocating for an arm of the
So Nico, again, when we're talking.
Imagine if Hunter was had the balls to say, do you have a giant fat dumpy ass? Because you're like Elastigirl with that stretch. Can you imagine what a parallel universe we would live in? What a better debate result with that with that lead into, you know? Jesus fuck. Rokerd, thank you for the tier 1 sub. Really appreciate that. I hear you describe yourself as a Bloodborne streamer, but I mostly just see political content on your channel. Do you have a gaming channel or something? Oh my dear lord, I don't actually know if this is a joke. If it is not a joke, then this is one of my favorite donations I've ever gotten. I do not have a gaming channel, but I do play games on stream pretty often, like maybe about half the time that I'm streaming. And if you look through my VOD playlist on YouTube, which is unlisted, but you'll be able to find it, you will find me playing games. But you'd have to go back quite a while to find Bloodborne, I think. This is very, very touching to me, you know?
talking about. Oh my God, hold
The
on.
law. Yeah, definitely. You have no proof of that. I have plenty of examples of proof where they literally.
So I'm reading. I have you muted now because you just won't stop talking, and everything you're saying is wrong. And you're also asking me questions that are irrelevant to what I'm saying. So I am quoting to you a 1987 Supreme Court decision when it comes to government grants and the rights that the government has when subsidizing businesses or giving.
The thing that I think that's really interesting about Hunter, I hope he doesn't interpret this negatively because I love Hunter, is that I think that his brain is incapable of conceiving Niko House's brain. Because in his position, if I were there, I would never be deluded enough to believe that Niko House would ever give a single shit about a Supreme Court ruling. You know what I mean? He's too good faith to perceive the bad faith. You know what I mean? Like Niko House will either ignore it or just say like, "Oh well, since when has the CIA followed the law?" You know, it's impermeable to him. It's like intangible. It's ectoplasm to him. He can just move right through it effortlessly with no, what an odd looking helm, with no worries. Yeah, you could just say the Supreme Court is bought out.
Funding, okay? And one of those requirements is that they are not allowed to coerce that company. So the state is legally barred, and they will face consequences. Or I'm sorry, not the state, but the federal government, or really anyone getting a grant, will face consequences if they make it to the point that unless you accept this grant, we're
anticipating Niko's response. Have you looked at history? Do you really think they face consequences? Hunter doesn't understand the they're in the walls mindset. That's true. That's true. He doesn't. And I love him. This is like a match made in heaven, to be honest.
going to tank your business. You're not allowed to coerce them. So whether or not SpaceX would cease to exist without certain government contracts isn't actually relevant nearly as much as were they coerced to take the contract originally? Then if not, it wasn't coercion, there's nothing illegal here, and you're failing to prove anything nefarious. All right, you're unmuted now. Thanks. Because you told me I don't live in the real world, and I'm quoting you like a court case. So
let me go ahead. Let me. You're quoting a cold case completely out of context. Not talking about how the CIA and the federal government itself, but how the CIA literally has broken laws, has undermined not only the law, but literally the president before.
This is irrelevant to the context
no, it's
of the
not
conversation.
No. Just because you choose to separate actions that doesn't bolster your argument doesn't mean that it's irrelevant. It means you don't want to accept it because of the relevancy. The CIA has been able to do what it wants, how it wants, with impunity, okay? With complete total impunity.
So you think that the CIA...
Hold on, let me finish, because you keep trying to figure... The reason you can't figure out how it's all fucking connected is because you keep cutting me off before I fucking finish, Hunter. Goddamn.
You're right, I'm sorry. Please go ahead.
So, like I was saying, when you can act with impunity, you quoting laws to somehow defend an organization that has never had to adhere to a law is meaningless and, as you call, irrelevant. It doesn't make any sense. I am telling you, you're telling me, oh, nothing you said is fact. No, what I said is all facts. You just keep trying to say they're not facts because you don't like it. When you can undermine the president of the United States of America, bro, really try to start a war between two countries and no one's held accountable, you aren't accountable to anything. And you quoting some laws, by the way, because you talked about the legality of what Intel is doing. Like, once again, bro, like Jim Crow laws were legal until they weren't. And everybody's like, oh, shit, maybe that was a bad idea.
Yeah, but this is something that's very, very different. This is different than slavery.
Just because something is legal doesn't mean it's ethical, one. And just because something is against the law doesn't mean those who have broken the law time and time again without accountability are all of a sudden going to start following the law in this one very specific circumstance because it fits Hunter's argument. That's not how shit works in real life, bro. I'm just saying.
Okay, got it. So because you believe that the CIA is able to act with complete immunity, that somehow means that the CIA is giving unlimited funding to Google and Facebook, even though there was only like a couple grants given in the early 90s during the startup phases of Google? I guess I don't understand.
You're talking about a grant. You're talking about a grant.
Yes, because your original claim. Did you forget your original claim already? Because you said it's unlimited funding from Google and Facebook, right?
Actually, no.
That's what you said.
So once again, so you're quoting my panel where I said it's a little bit more complicated than, oh, you just have unlimited funding, do whatever you want to. No,
but it's not even close.
For example, the Founders Fund. The Founders Fund is a good example. With Peter Thiel and I think it's Peter Thiel, Sean Parker was one of them. A couple guys from PayPal shit. But basically, the Founders Fund is the CIA front, and everything you can talk about Facebook, Google,
Groupon.
Facebook, Google.
Is that in there?
Say that again.
Groupon, is that one of them?
Wait, aren't these guys on good terms with Peter Thiel? Doesn't Peter Thiel run the website that Glenn Greenwald is on right now? Right? I'm not fully up to date on the grift sphere or whatever, but isn't Peter Thiel, yeah. Peter Thiel funds Rumble. Yeah, I fucking half forget what Rumble even is. God damn it. There's such a convoluted fucking web of these people, man. God damn it. Conservative YouTube? Pog.
Because I think I know what you're. I think I know what you're talking about, which I think again you're just talking about a capitalist venture investing into startup tech companies. That's what you're talking about here. Like you're making it sound nefarious when it's not.
No. Okay, one, because I don't ignore the obvious. I guess that's probably the difference between us. Like I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like, oh yeah, this woman who is a leader in the CIA, specifically for DARPA, which is literally for defense and research and development for the U.S. government, ends up on Google.
I already know about this. And it was like one person that formerly worked at the CIA. No. That's not the conspiracy. Hold on, wait. That's not the conspiracy theory. The conspiracy theory is that because they hired someone who was once associated with the CIA, that somehow makes Google or Facebook secretly an arm of the CIA. That's the conspiracy theory. You see what I mean? You see the difference there?
It isn't that much of a secret. Like they talk about working with the intelligence community all the time. I mean, that's not that much of a secret. So, are you familiar with Eric Schmidt?
Oh, he never answers. He never answers. He just goes and asks another rhetorical question before going on another 5-minute rant about some other thing that's probably not going to end up being fucking related. Oh my god. Jesus Christ. End me. Well, pretty soon we're going to be talking to Counterpoint, so, we'll be ending this. I do want to see how far this... I do want to see the conclusion, though. One of them is going to fucking hang up on the other person, okay? That's a guarantee.
Being asked like a lot of questions. Why don't you just make your point real quick?
I'm not talking past you, because anytime I try to string more than 3 thoughts together, you just go back to the same goddamn point.
You're talking past me a lot right now.
The context of the conversation before I continue, Hunter.
Okay, can you help me understand how Google and Facebook are receiving massive amounts of funding from Facebook or from the CIA?
He was the Obama administration and Defense Department. Then he ends up at Google. CEO. You're making all these massive transactions that all seemingly benefited the CIA directly in one form or another.
How?
Okay. Now, once again, if I am working for the literal Defense Department, you know, home of all those alphabet companies that we were just, alphabet agencies that we were just discussing, then I end up at Google. By the time that we just talked about Google being so close knit to the CIA and to the federal government in general. Do you think that my affiliation with the Obama State Department has nothing to do with why I was placed on Google?
I don't know. I mean,
is he just talking about former political officials going to the private sector after they retire from... Is that it? Is that's what he's referring to right now, isn't it? It's literally like, hey, this guy worked with the Obama administration, but then he worked with Google. We know. We all know this happens, but I don't think this is like a State Department CIA specific thing. I think this is just generally how the government works. There's a problem with it, but I don't think it means that they're controlled by the former... Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, ultimately it would be conjecture, right? Because if we don't have any proof, then it's either, well, it could be, it might not be. We don't really know, right? There's no proof. Like that, but you're filling in the blanks with a story, and that makes it conspiracy. You're doing it right now. I don't even think you realize.
That wasn't talking about this shit.
I don't think that's what makes something conspiracy.
You're quoting court cases without context, specifically regarding the intelligence community. It has something to do with completely different than what we're discussing, and then be like, but I'm quoting a court case. It does not. I mean, it doesn't make you smarter. It doesn't mean you actually understand shit. It just means you can quote a court case. It doesn't mean you actually understand how it can be applied.
But you're doing it right now. You laid out a story to me, and then you filled in the blanks with a nefarious story. That's the conspiracy theory.
He
right
got
there.
his pronunciations from me.
You have not even.
My God.
You're doing it right now.
With any of the points that I presented to you.
Because you're not making any.
You can't dismiss. Oh, it's conjecture. If it's conjecture.
No, that's not conjecture. That's an objective fact, actually. We have it on video, dude. We have video footage of you not making a single point.
Give me whatever point you. So if you don't think that it's possible, although they would never do something like that, then give me an example as to.
Did I say they would never do something like that? That wasn't even the claim.
That's literally what a conspiracy is, dude. Taking leaps of logic off a narrative. Well, technically, a conspiracy is just like an intent to commit a crime being like planned by 2 or more people, right? A conspiracy theory isn't just like filling in the gaps with a narrative, because unfortunately, that's what you kind of always have to do with anything like regarding political analysis, you know? So there's a big difference between like information and how that information is reported. And a series of disconnected facts can be linked together with a compelling narrative if you can make a good argument for it. The problem is that Niko is not making a good argument for it. He's just gesturing at the CIA being bad, which it is, as a replacement for like a good connecting thread. But on its own, like creating narratives behind behavior is how we even talk about history, you know? Like history, the practice of teaching history involves a very subjective process of choosing which facts fit into which narratives and which narratives best reflect what we think reality must have been, and then choosing how to tell that story, if that makes any sense. So I don't think that's necessarily conspiratorial. Otherwise, we would never be able to make any comments or claims on anyone's motivations, because we always have to infer those too.
Like, why would that harm them? What would dissuade them?
The original claim. I would just like to
placing
remind you that the original,
as the head of Google, as they're tied up with the intelligence community. Please tell me what would dissuade them from doing that.
Remember how the question, do you remember how this conversation actually began on a really good note? It was going to be us talking about how the CIA is giving unlimited funding, or even just a lot of funding to Google and Facebook. But instead, I haven't learned anything about this. You've just explained, well, you don't think, no, you said you don't think the CIA has ever done anything bad? The burden of proof is on you right now, my dude. And all you have are a couple grants.
All
you have are a couple.
To the Inquitel. Do you know who responds to that?
Did you realize that I'm looking at this right here on my screen? I have sources up right here, okay? And we can read about the grants that were given. That doesn't compare. That was
talking about grants from the fucking 90s, Hunter. I'm talking
yes,
about
because your claim, no, your claim was they get unlimited funding. Your claim was unlimited funding, and now you're talking about something completely different.
Rock of the $5. Just realized you're only joking when you call yourself a Bloodborne streamer, but it's honestly pretty confusing. A little disappointed though. I'm sorry. I did play Bloodborne. I do have a lot of gameplay on my channel, you know? We do play a lot of games here. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to mislead you.
Giggles? Come on, bro.
I'm literally trying to just hold you to a single point, and I think you're unable to do it. It's actually really sad.
Smarter than this, and I've been giving you too much credit. There's that too. There's a possibility that you just literally, you're a 25-year-old kid who doesn't actually understand how the world really works.
Yeah, I think I need to go sign up for the military.
I need to go read shit.
Why don't you read some shit? Because it sounds like when you don't know things, you just like to fill it in with stories. Do you always tell yourself bedtime stories before bed? Like how is the CIA in the room with you right now? Is the CIA in the room with you right here? Is it here? Is it in the room?
Is who in the room?
The CIA. Are they listening right now?
According to the NSA and Edward Snowden and literally Congress, yeah, they're literally.
Are they talking? Do you hear them? Do you hear the voices in your head? Because if you do, you might want to talk to someone else about that.
Are you an official asset or unofficial asset? If you ask me if I hear him talking, because I have not heard a better speaker piece for the fucking CIA since, well, I guess Destiny a week ago.
Well, that's really hilarious, man. I wish that if only you came a little bit with more equipped with some facts about the issue, then maybe you could challenge us. No, apparently us CIA assets are just undefeatable now.
About the grant without talking about the actual.
I did not. You literally made the. Hold on. Can I explain how I got to this conclusion here?
Everybody's like, okay, and I don't give a fuck about the grant.
First of all, I'm sorry that you are not. First of all,
gives grants to people that they don't take the benefit from. That is fucking lunacy.
No, of course they expect to benefit from it. That wasn't the conversation. Of course they expect to benefit from it.
Intellectual mediocrity, like it really demonstrates why.
First and foremost, I'm sorry that you seem to be. All right.
I get it, bro.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry that you seem to be coping with the fact that us CIA agents are just apparently unbeatable. Hopefully, you're able to come equipped with a little bit better facts next time. Again, I'd like to just remind the audience because I keep having people in here. You're muted, by the way, so no one can hear you. But anyway, your original claim was that CIA is giving unlimited funding to Google and Facebook. You then said, "Hey, that may have been a little bit hyperbolic. I had to be a little reductionist there." That's fine, man. I understand that maybe unlimited funding isn't really the correct term there, but even getting a decent amount of funds, nothing. All you have are startup brands in the 90s, and Google bought Earth Viewer in 2004. That's all you have to walk away from. CIA is giving funding, massive amounts to Google and Facebook, which makes them the equivalent of an arm of the government or part of the CIA. Do you realize how the actual truth of the matter is a massive walkback from the claim you made to the point that your original claim is pretty much just a bull-faced lie?
No, it's not. You just keep quoting a fucking grant from 1995 and pretending that that's the only time the CIA has ever funded them. That's fucking idiotic.
When else was there?
Literally.
Could you help me understand?
No. Pause.
Because that was your claim, so you should have that burden of proof, right?
We're still at it.
You're like, oh, because I decided to ignore all the facts that presented to me. I just told you.
You didn't give me any facts.
I told you.
You said you've worked in the military, so you know.
Another example, how Amazon was given $600 million.
Hunter called him the N-word.
And what, like a few fucking weeks later, they bought Washington Post, which was the #1 publisher in the world. They just basically post a bunch of fucking CIA propaganda. Like, that's all they do at this point.
Well, I know, because for you, when you're delusional, everything is CIA. I understand that.
You truly believe that which, by the way, Amazon was a failure of a company.
Oh, here we go. Did the CIA make Amazon too?
The government stepped in.
Did the CIA make Amazon too?
Amazon actually owes its success to the federal government. So please, if you had any fucking real world experience with anybody other than your fucking right hand, do you understand how that works? If I owe the success of my business to you, then I'm indebted to you.
That's literally not true. So the government hold on, dude. The government steps in and gives the government steps in. Are you gonna run away? Are you serious? Yeah, no. This honestly went way worse than I thought it would. I was hoping that we'd actually be able to get somewhere, but apparently you're way more delusional than I thought. Yeah, fuck off, dude. God, what a fucking idiot. Holy shit.
There it is. Let the hate flow through you.
Oh my god. So first and foremost, when the government gives subsidies all the fucking time, okay? The government steps in and subsidizes buildings all the time. This does not make that business an entity of the state.
All right.
It doesn't.
I have a suggestion, really quick. Here's my suggestion, okay? Shu, you have to call him out on Twitter. Call him out on Twitter and say that he's a CIA shill. And then debate him on this same subject, okay? Shu, do you accept? Just call him a lib over and over. Okay, wait, anyway, debate recap, okay? So, so there are some... okay, I feel like I'm comfortable critiquing Hunter here because Niko House is obviously a lunatic. So, you know, this, like, me critiquing Hunter here is kind of like me critiquing the form of a person rolling a boulder up a hill, you know? Like, I don't need to critique the boulder. The boulder is the boulder. We know what the boulder is and what the boulder does. We need to critique the form and handling the boulder, an obstacle we must overcome. So with, Shu, no! Don't start shit, Shu! So I think, there's a particular type of, there's a type of argument that Hunter doesn't seem to have a very good response to, and I feel like Niko House is that argument in a person. And it's this vague conspiratorial gesturing, you know? I feel like Hunter needed to avoid some of the traps that Niko House was trying to lay about making it about the trustworthiness of the CIA, you know? Now, but later Hunter did better on this. He kept bringing up the initial claim made by Niko House over and over and over again. But with guys like him, you have to stay calm. I say this as a person who has not stayed calm with Niko House in the past. You need to stay calm, and you need to like treat them like a child, basically, because they kind of are, like, brain-wise. You know, they have baby brains. So you need to be like, okay, you realize that having a grant given to a company by the government doesn't mean they're in the service of the government, right? It's just a standard legal procedure. It's happened many, many times. It's not really atypical. And then he'll go off and like, well, so don't you know the history of the CIA? They do bad. You're like, okay, I know that. But that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. And you can repeat that as many times as you need to. 4, 5, 6, you know. You know, like, well, the person on the board used to serve with the Obama administration State Department. Like, okay, I'm well aware of the fact that people in government, after retiring, will often go and serve on the board of private corporations. I think that it's bad because it leads to, you know, kind of an indirect regulatory capture in a way. However, that doesn't mean that they're now like a servant of the feds or of the State Department, right? It could just mean there are overlaps in job requirements and interest between being in the State Department and being part of a company that leads the private investment in, like, surveillance. There might be a relationship between those things that doesn't directly have to do with, like, some kind of weird indirect fealty to the government. Stuff like that, you know what I mean? Guys, do you understand what I'm saying? It's Niko House. I mean, anything you do is going to be a shit show. There's no getting around that. Yeah. It's like JQ logic. Like, somebody's like, oh, yeah, well, this company is controlled by Jews. And you're like, okay, and how? And they're like, well, this person on the board's a Jew. And you're like, okay, well, they're like, grandpa was Jewish? What does this mean? They're like, well, you know how there are. They're everywhere. It's like, it's meaningless conspiracy bait.